On this episode of China Uncensored, a Hong Kong student leader / dangerous criminal has been sentenced to prison. Plus, war may be brewing on 3 fronts. Good thing China's a nation of peace. And finally, have you ever felt like you were being watched? You are. This is China Uncensored. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. I'm afraid I have some bad news. In Hong Kong, democracy activist, friend of the show, and apparent criminal mastermind Joshua Wong was sentenced to 6 months in prison for unlawful assembly during the 2014 Umbrella Movement protests. Fellow activists Nathan Law and Alex Chow were sentenced to similar prison terms. If this feels like deja vu, it's because last November all 3 activists were already sentenced for the same thing. But they were given hours of community service instead of prison time. But apparently, that wasn't enough for the Hong Kong government, which is increasingly controlled by mainland China, the very thing the 3 of them were protesting against. Prosecutors filed an appeal for the original sentence, and earlier this week a judge decided that yes, the punishment ought to be harsher to deter other young people from possibly unlawfully assembling in the future. According to the judge, the defendants' banners of peace and rationality were empty words, and the court needed to impose sentences with even greater deterrent effect in order to defend the dignity of the rule of law. And nothing says the dignity of the rule of law like giving harsh sentences to political activists. But was it really a political decision, you ask? Well, since they were sentenced to prison, the activists can't run for office for the next 5 years. Nathan Law had already been elected last year to Hong Kong's legislature, until he was kicked out last month for quoting Gandhi during his oath of office. So yeah, probably not political at all. Now on to North Korea. Earlier this week, China implemented UN sanctions against the rogue regime. But in case you thought things were getting too cooperative on the North Korea issue, Chinese state-run media, the Global Times, wrote last week that if North Korea launches missiles that threaten U.S. soil first and the U.S. retaliates, China will stay neutral. In other words, you're on your own, America. On the plus side, it won't be a repeat of the Korean War. After all, China has bigger fish to fry, particularly fish from the South China Sea. Another U.S. Navy patrol conducted a freedom of navigation operation in the South China Sea on August 10th. They cruised past Mischief Reef, where China is building an artificial island with military installations. It prompted state-run media to ask whether the U.S. is making trouble or keeping peace. Obviously making trouble. If the United States wanted peace, they just let the Chinese army keep building military bases there in peace. But one country that apparently does want peace with China is Vietnam. This week we learned Vietnam pulled its oil drilling ship out of disputed waters. And China wants peace with the Philippines, at least according to the Philippines defense minister, who said that Chinese officials had promised not to claim more territory in the South China Sea or build anything on the Scarborough Shoal. They'd better not, since I claimed that as China Uncensored sacred territory 9 months ago. And over to India. You know the saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me? Chinese and Indian troops must have been listening. They threw stones at each other. So this latest bout of elementary school-style rock throwing could lead to something more serious. And finally, Big Brother is watching. So could you please be a little more entertaining? In China, everyone is being filmed all the time. Cameras are everywhere. They even have special police buses for it. Come on, people, whatever happened to subtlety? But what's even weirder is that in China, your average citizen can get in on the surveillance fun. China's 751 million internet users can binge on real-time video streams of yoga studios, swimming lessons, alpaca ranches, and thousands of other scenes captured by surveillance cameras. Some of those other scenes include people shopping for lingerie. That article even mentions a popular feed of a slim, attractive receptionist in Beijing who, according to comments, is a chronic nose picker. There is so much constant surveillance footage. One Chinese film director compiled 7,000 hours of it to make a full-length movie. It includes footage of people actually dying. It's ironic, in a society where so much is censored, a person's private moments can be seen by all, It's the real-life version of The Truman Show. So if you'd like to see more, stay tuned after the break. You might be freaked out if someone was watching you, but I love it. And you could see more of me if you go to ChinaUncensored.tv. We have full-length half-hour episodes available every Friday for free. Check it out at ChinaUncensored.tv.